last part of this is customizing SAM to your business. So built into SAM, we've got all these different databases and fields and drop-down boxes and stuff like that we've pre-built for you. But not everybody needs everything that's in those. So what I want to do is show you the last setup piece here is in the integrations areas, what we just went over. The one that I want to go over is in setup. So similar area, it's just in the setup area. So some of these choices you may not have, and it's based off of things that are turned on in my account that you may not have access to yet, or you don't have the integration or the setting or whatever. If you don't have everything, don't worry. If you need something, let us know and we'll turn it on for you. But most of you will have these first 6 items, I think. The main one that I want you guys to look at as part of a setup process, if you've not done it already, is going into the menu options. Menu options is where you customize what choices are in different menus of the system. And we've preloaded it with lots of choices of different things, but many of those choices you may not need in your area. You may not use. It's like, what is that? You know, it doesn't make sense. It's off or whatever. If that's the case, delete it, remove it. So the first thing that I would do is just to make sure of is party member types. I know this sounds a little odd, but whenever you talk about your listings, your transactions, and projects, if you've got the projects section, you've got party members to your listings. Who's the buyer? Who's the sellers? Who's the stager? The listing coordinator? All these different party members that have something to do with that listing or transaction piece. And we have that set up in here in this party member types, where there's lots of different party member types. Some of these, like buyer, you can't delete it. We don't allow you to delete it. But some of these choices may not make sense to you, and you just don't need them. In which case, you could just come in here, you know, buyer's title. Maybe you just have title company, and instead of having a buyer's title and a seller's title. Well, you can come in here and delete the ones that you don't use. If you guys don't differentiate between buyer title and seller title, then you can get rid of those. Some of these, it's like, well, I may use them down the road. Well, you can keep those. Civil engineers, cleaning services. If there's a party type that's not in here that you do need to put in here, you just come up here, type in whatever it is. Say, I probably already have a well inspector. And you can do a search up here. So like, as you start typing, it will find anything in there. So well inspector, let's say pool. So pool maintenance specialist, you've got all kinds of different things in there that you've got. If we don't have it, you can type it in right here and then click on add, and it will add it to the list. So in your area, everywhere in the United States, Canada, stuff like that, most of these are used in some capacity, but not everywhere. So add the ones that you need that aren't there, remove the ones that you don't need, and make sure that it's set up the way you would use it. That way you don't have a lot of extra stuff in here that you don't need. If you never, ever use certain things, then remove them. One thing that I may not have on here, do I have condo, so like condo representative or something like that. I do have HOA representative. Maybe we need to add a condo representative, whatever for who I need to contact if it's a condo. Those party member types are what's there. Down here at the bottom, there's a little copy to the clipboard. I can click on that. It'll put it in my clipboard. I can then go to a Google Doc or something like that. Let me go over here, grab this, just to pull this over, and then I can paste that in. So if you want to see the entire list, maybe you want to print them out and go through them. Think about what you have, what you don't have. You can get that list, that little icon down the bottom right, bottom left corner, copies it to your clipboard so you can get that list. Team member roles inside your own team. If you've got the security, technically it's the same thing, but if you don't, you still have the ability to add your own roles. So in your SAM account, you can say, well, there are certain team members that have certain roles that are played. A buyer's agent, a listing coordinator, a transaction coordinator. You can put those in there and it will help identify who does what based off of their role. And then you can identify certain people with certain roles. So if I select listing coordinator, that's always Sally. Or if it's the transaction coordinator, it's always Jim. You know, it's you have that ability to set those pieces up. Manual roles, I'm not going to go into that right now. There's a very special case where you can set up some roles that you want to ask whenever you start a routine, but it's not a role that you use all the time, but you want to ask every time it comes up. And it's not assigned to anybody, but it's just a name. So maybe I want to assign a role of, trash taker outer, whatever. Whenever it goes and it starts that routine, it can ask who is this person at the time that it starts it manually, in which case you can then prompt for that person. Manage tags, all your different tags of your contacts, your properties, your listings, your transactions. If you've got projects is the same way. It's all the list of all your tags, and you can add and delete. You can do different types of things with those. You can add other ones.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
Ron would love to know difference between party members and tags. Are they related?
Yeah. So the difference between party members and tags. Tags are whenever you look at a contact record inside your database or a listing, a transaction, whatever, you can tag those records to be able to group them together in some way. Maybe I want a tag of newsletter and I tag, 100 people with newsletter. I can then say, show me my newsletter list. And that brings up that list. That's a tag. I tag them in a certain way so that I can bring those lists of names back. A party member, while it could be, I guess you might make a tag like, in my contact database, these are my inspectors. I guess you could certainly do that. That's a tag that could also be interpreted as a role or a party member, but a party member is actually linked to a listing, a transaction, or a project. So it's very, it links a physical property to a person, where a tag is just a single element on either one of those. Does that make sense? Is that clear enough?
I think so.
Okay. In either case, most software have tags and making sure that those are in there. The other thing that you probably won't ever need to edit this, but in case you do, it's certainly here to do it, is connection types. Inside the database, we track connections between people. So like a husband and a wife, you could have husband and wife as being the two connections. So like if I come down here and say, do a search here for, do I have husband? Okay, so I don't have husband on there, but I do have spouse. So, if they are spouse, they're both related. You could create a husband-wife option, in which case you know which one's the husband, you know which one's the wife. And, maybe they have similar names, and knowing which one is which could be a challenge at times, where if you have husband and wife or whatever, you can identify them. But maybe you've got brother-in-law, sister-in-law, you've got brother, sister, brother. You've got different types of connections between records, and knowing how they're related is important. You could have it as a company. Maybe you've got a company record, like a title company, and then connections to all the employees, the title reps. So you could say title rep, and then which company are they with, so you can kind of link them together. So there's lots of different ways of linking records together and knowing what that relationship looks like. We've got almost all of them in here. We probably are missing some, but whatever you want. So if you looked at my contact record, I would be the father. If I have Cody in my connection, he would be the son. So, and then if I go to his record, I would be listed as the father in his connection, so you can see who's who. So just know that those are there. So that connect the contacts and teams, those things are important. The next, probably even more important, is the different menu choices that you have the ability to edit. For the contacts, the properties, listings, transactions, and projects, if you've got projects, you go into the contacts, and these are the different drop-down field values for the different fields. So like if we go into the milestone field, these are the different choices. If we go into the source field, here's all the different sources. If we go into the status field, here's all the different statuses. If there are statuses you would not ever use, delete them, get them out of there. If there are statuses that you want to use but aren't in there, add them. You just type in the name, click the little plus, and it'll add it to the list. Getting this part of this set up in your system personalizes SAM to you, but the more important part of this is AI knows these choices, so that whenever it's doing things, it can utilize these choices for you and not choose them arbitrarily. So just understand that it's important for you to have this context of the field and its values, so that AI knows what that context is whenever it's doing stuff with these people. Properties, listings, transactions, whatever. So you've got the same thing for different types of property information. What types of basements, what types of cooling systems are in your area, garage types. You can change all of the menu choices that are in there and set those up the way you need to. Listings the same way. What are the different features? Anything that's in any of the choices, and we'll go into show you some of where these pieces are at here in just a second, just to show you. But definitely making sure those are set up, which are important. The statuses tab, I won't get into this round, but there's some ways of setting up process statuses and things that maybe you want to incorporate into your business process, and know that process is done, or what the status is of it. I'll later, maybe in our VIP section, but maybe later I'll go through the statuses pieces. We've got statuses for all the different sections in there. Demographics. Okay, this is one. Some people, work certain area type, different types of people based off of their niche. Some people, work with renters and first-time homebuyers. That's what they do. Well, after they are first-time homebuyer, where do they go? Well, they're either move up or they're second home buyers, or show home. Some of these, each of these have their own descriptions and stuff, and AI can use those descriptions on how you want to use them within your system. Are they move up buyer? Are they executive buyers? As you classify your people properly, it can then utilize this demographic piece within the routines to say, okay, I've got one routine that sends out this newsletter every month. Okay. But each person on that list gets a little bit different something based off of their demographic. If they're first-time home buyers, they get first-time home buyer content, where if they're a luxury person, they get more luxury content. You can set things up like that based off of who they are, what they are by demographic. Personality assessments, you pick which assessment types you like. Some people like DISC, some people like there's all bank. I mean, there's several different ones on here. We've got different things. Some people like to know this. I haven't really dug into it as much, but it does allow you to know their values, and it's fun. I think a lot of it.
Yeah.
So if you know somebody that's an action taker, that is part of the bank blueprint, action, nurture, knowledge, or if you use the DISC assessment, yeah, DISC is pretty common. I can load that one in. Dominance, influence, whatever. The advantage here is that based off of whenever you're using the AI to build content, if you're specifying what their dominance or what their DISC assessment item is, it can generate the content to match their assessment type. So I can be sending the exact same template, but have it augmented by their assessment type, if they have one. If not, it would just send it out the way it is. But maybe, it needs to be more direct. It needs to be more confident, or, whatever, because that's the way they accept their information. So SAM has that ability to augment your content based off of the personality assessment of that person, if you know what it is. The only challenge with doing something like this, where it augments it, is it's generated by AI. And yes, it will use your voice to generate it. But it does need to be approved before it sends out. So if it's something where you're sending a mass amount of stuff, you may or may not want to use that, because you got to go through and approve everything. You can do mass approvals, but it's something that you may or may not want to use. And then the daily processing piece. Whenever you're setting up routines, and we'll go over this later, you can set up certain time blocked areas that you want to send content. Instead of just sending, all your emails at 8:00 every morning, you may want to say, well, I want to send them out at my end of day email group, or I want to do my morning calls at this time, or whatever. And you can specify certain things within your routine to be at certain times based off of when you process different things. So you can set those up there. Whenever you set up a routine, it gives you the ability to set up that. This is just where you can edit those later. Now, you do have the ability to set up your own custom fields inside of SAM. I've got some custom tabs where you set up an extra tab inside of a contact, a property, a listing, transaction. And inside each of those tabs, then you can have separate fields. Those fields can collect data. You can use them for whatever. If we don't have a field that you think should be in there, or that you need, maybe it's a weird field for something in your area, then you can create a custom field and utilize it. It can be used in merge fields. It can be used in letters, and and emails and text messages and stuff like that. So being able to set up custom fields. But the one thing that is important whenever you're setting up your routines, we'll do this after lunch or later this afternoon, you're going to be using date fields, the important date fields for different things. So anytime that you've got a date field filled in a contact record, a listing, a transaction, whatever, whenever that date field gets filled in, it becomes the trigger for your routine to start. If there is a certain date field that we don't have, you can create it. You can put it into the system. We've got fields in here maybe you would never use. Again, you can delete them. I've got one in here called VIP client date. When did they become a VIP client? In our system, if you're a VIP, we do some different types of things for you. And based off of that, maybe I start a routine that reminds me to do things or has it do things for me automatically. Putting in that date triggers that process. So if there's something that you want to have happen based off of a certain key date, you need to make sure that key date's in there. Now, let me go here to a transaction. One of the features that we've got built in that is AI specifically for this is this extract dates from PDF. What this allows you to do basically is say, okay, there is a document. Maybe it's my contract. Maybe it's my buyer's agreement. Maybe it's my listing agreement, whatever it is. And it has a series of different dates on them. AI can analyze that document and try to recommend dates that are in there that it's not seeing that you've already got. It knows what dates are in your system, and it can kind of interpret some dates as being, well, this could be this date, but it may not be. So what you can do is click on this extract dates from PDF. You can then go into a given document. So and this is not a real Missouri real estate purchase agreement, but I could select that real estate purchase agreement document, that PDF file, and it will load it up and it will start looking for the different dates and whether or not we have it or not. So financing contingency deadline, for whatever reason, it wasn't in mine. Effective date is being used, and I'm not using it. It could be, when the agreement, I've got one in there for agreement date, I think, but maybe it's something different. This will allow you to extract those dates out of those common documents that you use and allow you to preload them as you want. And you can change whether you really want it or not. You can unselect them or whatever. You can then say add to the selected dates, and it'll fill it into this area for you. Anything that's blue is set up to show you on your contact record, your listing, transaction records all the time, whether it's filled in or not. If it's not blue, then it's only going to show you whenever there is a field value in there. You can find it in the important date fields doing a field search, but it doesn't show it to you all the time unless it's blue. To turn that on, you can edit that date. You can say always show, place a little check mark in there, and then also choose whether that date field has a date and a time or not. The contract date, maybe you want time, maybe you don't. You can come here and just say it's a date only field, in which case, whenever you go to fill it in, it only asks you for the date. If it's a date time field, it will ask you for the date. It'll also ask you for the time. So you might have a certain appointment or something like that where you need the time element of that date, and they're stored together in the fields. So once you have all of these pieces in place, then you're really ready to start using SAM in its fullest.